I see not enough storytelling. And look, I get it. I mean, people want to promote their courses. They want to get bums on seats. That's kind of the objective. But for me, and certainly for the team I work with, we are very clear on asking ourselves all the time, who cares? Why should they care? And how do we make them care?
Hey, welcome to the Higher Ed Storytelling University podcast, a show where we bring together Marcom leaders from both inside and outside higher ed to give you fresh perspectives on successful organic content creation and strategy in higher education. My name is John Azzoni. I'm the founder at Unveiled, a video production company working specifically with colleges on their storytelling and commercial video content. You can learn more about our work at unveiled.tv. That's UNVEILD. And if creating content that resonates emotionally with your audience is a priority for you, then you need to be subscribed to the Higher Ed Storytellers Digest. It's my weekly newsletter where we cover a lot of ground about content creation and strategy in higher ed. So sign up for that for free at unveiled.tv/newsletter. All right, let's get on with the show. My guest today is Michelle McMahon. Michelle joined University of Limerick in 2021 following a 5-year stint as head of social innovation at Fleischmann Hillard, Ireland, and previous roles as a lifestyle publication editor and commercial radio presenter. As part of her role in UL, Michelle manages the Student Social Media Officer program, bringing authentic student-led content to UL's channels, and produces video content for the university's multi-award-winning Stay Curious campaign. So Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Lovely to speak to you.
Cool. Let's start off on a personal note. What's something that people would be surprised to know about you?
Well, there's lots there I can't say, obviously. You did mention in my intro there that before moving to education, I did work in media. So it might not be a surprise that I was a journalist and a radio presenter, but maybe the fact that I spent a few years DJing in nightclubs might be. So played a lot of the big clubs in the region here, a couple of high profile events, very well known Irish festival. But my all time favorite was a regular monthly gig for an LGBTQ plus night, which graciously allowed me, even in a very cool club, to thoroughly indulge my passion for terrible pop music and cheesy 90s dance. That was a lot of fun. I still have the DJ kit, but these days it's more likely to be used for Disney soundtracks for my kids in my sitting room. There might be a comeback on the cards down the line. Who knows?
Yeah. Oh, man. We should have had you remix the intro music for this episode.
In a while, I might have to dust off a few bits of equipment there, John, but I'm up for the challenge.
What's your favorite jam to play? Do you have a favorite song or favorite transition or?
Yeah, I mean, I love 90s Euro dance, like that kind of EDM, that whole vibe of that was just so fun. And I still find, and they're all coming back because all of those tracks are now being sampled with all of the cool kids, and the songs come out. And I have a, 3 and a 5-year-old like, how do you know that song? I'm like, I don't know what this song is, but I know what the song that came before it is. And you're getting old when that starts to happen. But my 3 and 5-year-old can sing however much singing there is in it. Alice DJ's Better Off Alone from start to finish. And I'm really proud of that. I feel like the kids are all right. So that might be one of my faves.
So is Ace of Base considered 90s Euro?
I mean, it would. Absolutely. I would, the sign. Yeah. All that she wants. Yeah. All of it. I'm here for all of it.
Okay. I don't know if I know too much electronic music beyond
missing out. I'll send you a playlist.
Okay. So we're talking about doing content creation right. And you and I had connected on LinkedIn about University of Limerick's video content. You had sent me a few videos that I'm excited to look at because when I watch them, I don't invite everyone on the podcast. I'll just tell you that. I have to kind of get excited. I have to be jazzed about something that you're doing. I have people send me stuff all the time that's like, hey, you want to talk about this? And I say no more often than I say yes. So you're here. Your content has impressed me. So let's start at just tell me about University of Limerick. What's unique about the school?
Yeah, so University of Limerick it's located in the beautiful Midwest of Ireland. So I'm thinking in particular of an American audience who may not be too sure, but there's always I feel an urge to come and visit Ireland at some stage. I'd encourage them to avoid the typical Dublin trip and come to this side of the country. So you're in the Midwest, which is absolutely stunning. You're close to the famed Wild Atlantic Way. And actually something quite interesting about University of Limerick is the campus itself stretches across 2 counties. So you're in Limerick obviously enough. But if you cross the beautiful Living Bridge, you head over to our North Campus, and that's in County Clare, and it's home to our famed Irish World Academy of Music and Dance. Like, I'll admit to bias, but Clare is the best county in Ireland. UL has been voted the best student campus in Ireland on multiple occasions. It's a beautiful place to study and to work. And then there's like a huge, there is a huge variety of courses. So there's faculties with business, science and engineering, arts, humanities and social sciences, and education and health sciences. So there's a big spread of available courses for undergrad and postgrad as well. But I think I'd lead with the location, because the setting itself is pretty spectacular.
Awesome. That's like, I think, was maybe the biggest influencer of me when I was picking a college. I was like, I was going to go to, people who have listened to the podcast have heard me say this a couple times before, but I was going to go to Art Institute of Chicago, which is in like a city, like, concrete jungle type of thing. And then my dad was like, you know what, let's just check out Baltimore, Maryland. Let's just check out this art school out there. I was like, I don't want to. Like, but all right, whatever. Free trip. And we went, and like the cherry blossoms were in bloom, and it was like the weather was pretty mild. Like Chicago weather is very windy and like cold. And so I was like, all right, fine, I'll go to Baltimore. So
I think if I ever chose to spend time in Baltimore, I would immediately alienate myself from everybody around me, because I don't think I could start a day without singing Good Morning Baltimore from Hairspray. So I think I would just burst into that every day unchecked, and I think that would greatly annoy everyone in the vicinity. So maybe best
are you like a theater kid?
I
or
love
musical?
it, but I can't sing. So
Okay.
herein lies my dilemma. It's I love it. I'm incredibly passionate about it. I know all the words. I can't get any of the notes. So it's not really fun for anybody else around me.
Are you excited about the Wicked movie coming out?
I'm already booked to go opening night. Yes. Very excited.
I saw some, I don't know, it was like a TikTok or a tweet or something like that, but there's like, if you're not a theater kid, good luck trying to hear Ariana Grande sing any of the songs, because like everyone in the theater will be singing.
I think you just have to accept that. It's like, it doesn't have to have a sing-along event on the ticket for it to be a sing-along event, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so tell me about, like, where do you find yourself in your Marcom role? Like, tell me about your role, tell me about your team, anything that's worth mentioning beyond the intro that we introed you with.
So University of Limerick operates a kind of a devolved model to marketing. So there's a central Marcoms team, which has marketing, comms and web. We're all the one unit. The marketing team within that is really small. So we have our head of marketing and brand. Then I'm in there as digital marketing officer. We have our brand officer, a campaigns officer, and a marketing assistant. And that's it. So anything that kind of comes out from the central marketing team will be as a result of our work, or kind of collaborations between, us and other people in our department, or various departments and faculties around the institution. So it's small but mighty, I would say. And there are challenges that come along with the devolved, or I suppose decentralized, depending on what language people use in their own setups. But there can be advantages as well. I think there's an agility to a small team that means you can kind of decide you're going to do something, just go and do it, which is really nice.
Yeah.
But there's a huge amount of effort to bring people on board with us, so that if our work is at a brand awareness level and it's top of the funnel, you do still have to make sure that what you're doing works for the rest of the campus community. So if it then goes to a faculty who have to hone in on faculty specific messaging, or a course director who needs course specific messaging, you need to make sure that, I suppose, the approach of the campaign, the visuals, that can kind of trickle down into each of those areas. So that's an interesting challenge at times. But yeah, for us, it's small, agile, central team, doing our best.
That's great. And, there's a lot of advantages to being a small team. And one of the things that I love about being a business owner, and it's just me, I run Unveiled with the help of a lot of, contracted employees and freelancers and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's just me in this little, 10 by 10 foot office, or meter for you, I guess it'd be, what would that be like?
It's fine. You can use both.
3 meters by 3 meters. But yeah, like if I want to do something, I just do it. Like I don't have to ask anybody, and like I will not go back to a salary to like a salary job because of that. Cause like, and I work with some schools that, are just bigger universities, and it's like the bigger the university gets, the more rules there are, the more like protocols there are. I mean, just getting a simple video done requires so much back and forth with like paperwork and like numbers and PO numbers and
We
stuff.
are preaching
And
to
it's
the
like,
choir.
it's like, oh my gosh, this is
Yeah.
not that complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. The checks
So,
and balances can be challenging for sure. That bit can be difficult. And I think to the point you kind of raised about the amount of people decisions have to go through, we spoke about that one recently as, a situation of this analysis paralysis. So the more you think about something and the more people, the more eyeballs that have to go on it before anything happens, the less likely it is that anything happens at all. So I think there's been a bit of a journey of discovery there, because for us that developed a decentralized model isn't actually that old, and it came in without change management processes around it. So that was really challenging. But there's been a real effort between, I would say, the central team led by my line manager and the other departments and faculties we work with to kind of figure out the best way to work together and trust each department knows what they're doing. And, everybody's an expert in something. So trust them to do the bit that they know how to do and that they're tasked with doing. But it's not easy. It has challenges for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So getting into the topic of the day, what would you say are your main points of view on storytelling and like higher ed marketing in general? Like, what do you see too much of? What don't you see enough of? Stand on your soapbox for a little bit here.
Sure. Well, I think you've got the key word in the question, to be honest. It says it all. Storytelling. I see not enough storytelling. Needs more story. And look, I get it. I mean, people want to promote their courses. They want to get bums on seats. That's kind of the objective. But for me, and certainly for the team I work with, who, there's a lot to be said for being surrounded by great people and people that you trust and you get on with. But we are very clear on asking ourselves all the time, yeah, who cares? And why should they care? And how do we make them care? And for me, that is always, always, always lead with people. So I get that you might want to promote a course, but find me an incredible student or graduate that's come through that course or is on it with a great personal, impactful story to tell. It's far less explicit about the course attributes, but it's far more impactful, especially, again, where we're sitting at the top of the funnel, where what you want is awareness. You want people to know, I suppose, for me, I want people to know that if they choose University of Limerick, they're going to find a place to call home for a really formative part of their lives. And they're going to find people that they want to spend that formative part of their life with. And that's kind of the core, I suppose, guiding principle when we're creating.
Yeah, for sure. And I think two things that made me think of is, one, I think a lot of universities think they're telling stories because they're doing marketing, but there's actually very little storytelling actually happening, to the point where I've kind of been like, well, the way that we use the word storytelling is kind of like the way that, teenagers use the word literally, like literally almost never means literally in their vernacular. So I'm kind of like, I'm just weird. I like nerd out about this stuff, but like for probably a decade, I have been like, studying storytelling and like really being bothered by the fact that people use this word storytelling wrong. And in the last couple of years, I've just been like, you know what? It's just our language. Like, people could mean two different things when they say storytelling. It could be an actual story, or it could be just creatively packaged information that's maybe a little more creative than just point blank, like a sales video. So I've come to accept that, and I call that declarative storytelling versus narrative storytelling.
Nice. I like that you've made the distinction and you still get to own that, even though you've had to give in to storytelling being used as a literally. Yeah. So, but yeah, definitely. And then the other thing that makes me think of is like what you said about like top of funnel, bottom of funnel. It's like people aren't ready for the sales message, further up the funnel. But when they are ready, it's like, okay, just say what the thing is. Like, just say what the features and benefits are. Like, we can just convert people. We don't have to like go on this roundabout story about my grandfather was in the Civil War and whatever and all this stuff. So it really just like, it just matters. And I think not enough schools are thinking about who should care about this and why should they care and where are they going to watch this and what kind of time commitment are they realistically going to give this video. And so it really becomes about designing the storytelling for a specific audience. And I think where a lot of schools go wrong is they make one video and they expect, well, this is a 3-minute video. I want people to be scrolling on
TikTok and they're going to watch this whole thing.
My whole 3 minutes. And actually, the first 20 seconds of that are my title cards. So I'm hoping that they're going to hang on. That drives me insane. I'm like, you've got 3 seconds if you're lucky to get attention here. Pull out one incredible quote, put it at the front. Leave your slide to the end. Nobody's going to see it anyway. But get something to stop people. And if there was one thing I could get people to stop doing, it would be that. It would be the, here's my intro to my brand at the start of my video.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Totally. That could be a whole nother episode. Maybe we'll do a compilation episode, because this is a theme I've talked to many marketers about, like just the obsession with the logo, and how it's just ruining videos left and right. When you think videographer, you probably think of one person with a camera that will come film some stuff for YouTube for you. When you think commercial, you probably think like this separate big undertaking that involves an ad agency and all this stuff. But at Unveiled, guess what? We do both. You want to do some nimble documentary style storytelling? We got you. You want to create a polished, like really slick 30-second commercial to stream on Hulu with professional actors and set design and a director that yells action, and there's like a whole table that's just filled with like free bagels and snacks and coffee all day long. Guess what? We got you there too. And it would not be our first rodeo. We've done some rodeos. We can get this done for you anywhere in the US without the travel costs that would come along with flying a 20-person crew out. So don't feel like you have to be limited by your location with who you hire for a project like this. So head over to unveiled.tv/commercials to see some of our commercial work, as well as behind the scenes content. And you can book a call with me to chat further right there on our website. All right, back to the show. So UL seems to be very video first. Like, would you agree with that?
I would, yeah. Certainly from my own unit, as I mentioned, which is the central marketing team. So yeah, we would be very video first. And typically for us is maybe an overarching brand campaign, then specific ones for, say, postgrad and undergrad. Maybe another one where there might be a collaborative series with the likes of research. I sent you on, I think, one of those videos as well. So typically for us, the aim is kind of a suite of engaging, usually first person videos. They'll often be kind of a hero video that takes bits from each of their persona videos to level up to this kind of one overall picture of whatever it is we happen to be talking about. And then you'll have the persona videos, which would be the personal experiences of staff, student, graduates, whichever the content series is. And then to your point that you just made, that might be the 2-minute video. And yes, of course, you want everybody to watch your 2 or 2.5 minute video on YouTube, where it's in the correct proportions and you want to get 1 million views on it. And ideally you want that embedded on your web page. So they've gone to the web page as well. It's not going to happen. So when we have that core asset, then it's okay, well, how do we repurpose this for various channels? So where needs the portrait edit? Even though the landscape shot is beautiful, we need a Reels version. So we have to get the portrait one. We have to get the shortcuts. We have to get the cuts for the advertising agency, which might be 7 to 15 seconds. And talk about kill your darlings when it comes to editing.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Pulling out this one little hook and hoping that that's enough to convert, or accepting that sometimes that's all you get, because maybe they'll sign up for something based on that, but they still won't watch the full video. But usually, yeah, we start with, where's the core story? Where's this hero piece going to come from? Who are going to be the contributors to that? And then how do we maximize the outputs of everything else? So we'll have an individual video for each of those personas as well. You know yourself that you'll do an interview for what ends up being a 2-minute video, but the interview is an hour long. So typically we'll write up that interview as well. And then there'd be like a long form article that might sit on the website. It might go in publications. We might be doing an alumni magazine. We might be doing LinkedIn articles. So it's kind of maximizing the output of the effort that went in, but making sure that each of those outputs is appropriate to the channel and the audience that we're aiming for.
I love that. And I love that sort of distribution first mindset, because I think when you know how you need to distribute something, you approach the video production way differently. If we're just going for 1 2 to 3 minute video, the set of questions that I would ask is a lot less and probably a little bit different than if I knew we were also creating like 5 top of funnel videos for YouTube shorts out of this interview, and then 5 mid funnel and 5 bottom of funnel. Like, we would have separate strategies with that interview to arrive at those. We wouldn't just shoot for a 2 to 3 minute video and hope that we can pull some top of funnel stuff out of that. So that's why I really think that it changes the game when you have a distribution strategy everything that you produce with video becomes more strategic and intentional.
Absolutely, yes. And I think we've all been on the other side of that as well, where somebody, maybe that you might be working with, the best will in the world goes, I've made this video. What can you do with it? But the asset is produced as it's this one thing. So like not getting to that point and having all those considerations before you ever turn on a camera or visit a location, having thought about that in advance completely changes the game, changes the approach. And it leads to, in our experience, much better outcomes.
Yeah, for sure. All right. I'm excited to talk about these you sent me 4 different videos that were great. I'm excited to unpack these. I want to start with the research series video. And I told you earlier, like 95% of my audience just listens to the audio. So we'll have to sort of try to narrate these videos. This will be like good, like practice for like your alt text,
Yes, indeed.
So yeah, let's start with the research series. This is something I'm always pushing, my audience to do, as well, where interesting research content that's palatable, for a general audience. So where does UL stand as a research institution? How are you guys trying to get that out into the world through video? And then tell us about this one example.
Sure. Okay. So, there's incredible research coming out of UL, and there's a great team in UL research with a really strong strategy. So last year, UL's a very young institute. So last year celebrated its 50th anniversary. And there were some projects commissioned to kind of celebrate that in that year of anniversary. And this particular project was one of them. So we already had this postgraduate Stay Curious campaign. It had been enormously successful. And we met with the research team and they were keen to replicate the style of that, but with the researchers. So it was a collaborative effort between research and marketing. And it was one of those really nice collaborations. I think we've all had the other side, but this was really nice. And again, I think it was one of those experiences where everybody brought something to the table and everybody appreciated each other's expertise. And, for us, that meant like the people working in research were the ones reaching out to the researchers. So it wasn't us going, hey, I'm making a video, I've never spoken to you before. It's people who were working with them on a daily basis. And there was just that level of trust there, which is so helpful. And I suppose what we were trying to do is showcase that across all of these departments and faculties, there is this one true north goal that all of the researchers, I suppose, are working in collaboration to make the world a better place through the lens of the 4 pillars of UL's research strategy. So that's all based on working towards a smarter society, a more inclusive society, a healthier society, and a sustainable society. So we interviewed 2 researchers who kind of work under each of those pillars, even though they weren't all in the same faculty. So there was this kind of cross-departmental and cross-faculty collaboration in that as well. So I suppose to paint the picture a little bit, it's over the course of about 2 minutes, you see these 8 different UL researchers. It's a combination of early career, very mature, very well-known academics. And you see them go about their work. It's all shot on the UL campus, while their voices are telling us about the importance of the research, why it matters, and I suppose ultimately why they've chosen UL to be the place from which they've tried to make the world a better place. And it opens with Mike Zavarothko, who'd be really well, probably one of our best known researchers, a global top 20 chemist. And I just love, like, it opens with him saying, it's not just molecules, it's not just publications, it's people. And that for me is that sets the tone so perfectly. I think academia in particular can feel so lofty at times. And you mentioned about making it palatable and accessible. We had people, I think, again, the fear sometimes can be, you're dumbing it down if you talk about it like this. You're not, you're opening it up. And I think what we were trying to do through that series was take away some of that loftiness of it. It's no less impactful and impressive, but what you're trying to showcase is just that these are good men and women doing what they can to make the world a better place. And they're doing it here and they're doing it now. And if you're a researcher or you're somebody who might want to step into that space, University of Limerick is a place where you would be welcome to do that. And we want you on our team. So it was a real pleasure and privilege to look at it in that way and to try and open it up to a wider audience.
I thought it was a good example, and we'll put the link in the description for all 4 of these videos if anyone wants to go, and I do encourage you to go watch them. But it was a good example of, like, it wasn't like a 2-minute video about one piece of research. It was just like a broad overview. Here's our point of view on research, which I think is very different than saying, here's why you should come to UL for the research. It's a slight tweak, but it's more showing why you should come than telling And I thought that was a really good way to do that. And just like you said, a good hook that just kind of like ropes you in. And honestly, I watched it and I was like, if I was more academic than I am, I would want to go study research there.
That's what you want. Yeah, I think, it's a challenging one. Like, and research is a difficult one for marketers because you have that kind of inherent tension between the salespeople and the people who are doing the work and that. And I think to an earlier point, research, the team in UL, they got it and it makes a difference. So you can't make a series of videos about a paper that just got published in an academic journal. I mean, you can, but could look at views on it or engagement on it. They trusted us to get our side of it right. And I think on our side as well, it was really important for us to respect the academics and the fact that this isn't necessarily in their wheelhouse either, what we're asking them to do, So we gave them really comprehensive briefing docs. We shared the questions. We did as many runs and as many takes on the day as they were happy with. We shared drafts. We shared the articles. It was really important that to all of us who were filming and going through the process, that they felt like part of it and that we were ultimately making something that they would be proud of as well. And when it actually did come out, and it was a really nice response to it, but one of the researchers featured is Sarah Gearan, incredibly impressive researcher, named SFI Young Researcher of the Year last year. And she shared the video publicly and said, "You captured the spirit of research perfectly." And I honestly floated home from work that day. I was so pleased. I was so proud that we had done their stories justice. I think that's just this, there's just such a win in that.
For sure. As a videographer, especially when I'm the one editing something, like the payment almost as much as like, being able to put food on the table is the client being happy and being like, oh my God, you said it perfectly. This is exactly what I feel about our organization that I couldn't express any other way. And you captured it. So I think, that's such a win. And I think that we don't think about that enough when we talk about like ROI a lot in video and like this external ROI. Well, if I spend $5,000 on a video, I need to make $10,000. But it's sort of like, well, what's the ROI of like a hammer? Like it becomes a very valuable tool for doing things over a long period of time. And if you get that tool right, and it becomes a really useful tool, it's like unlimited ROI.
I love that. I might steal that one. I'm going to reference my hammer in future meetings. Thank you. I'm going to save that.
I think it's a good analogy to present to leadership who want to see like really hard numbers out of marketing. It's like, here's a common object. Here's a cast iron skillet. What's the ROI of your cast iron skillet? Anyways, so I'm on a cast iron skillet kick lately because my wife was asking me what I wanted for Christmas and I had to come up with some ideas. And I was researching, I'm like binging all the Top Chef episodes on so I'm kind of like, I bought myself a professional knife set, and
nice.
Moving on to the cast iron skillets and stuff like that. So
you're on Christmas dinner duty this year, so right?
Yeah. Yeah. So what are the challenges around research storytelling, in marketing? You kind of alluded to this a little bit. And what I've heard from others is just, academic folks just not really seeing the value in a creative view of their research. I don't know if that's the case for you or if there are other barriers for you guys in making that video.
Yeah, look, I mean, this project and this process was a really pleasant one. And I think there's ways in which we just got really lucky there. But again, I think it's down to having the respect for the academics that is appropriate and preparing that, like, these are really, really smart people, but sitting down in front of a camera talking about their work is not necessarily something that they're going to be particularly comfortable with, or it's not part of their day to day. And it was really important that we created an atmosphere where they felt safe, appreciated, comfortable. And, if you need to say it a different way, and also that they understood in the process where we were kind of maybe asking for things to be simplified down or leveled up, because sometimes the minute details were far too minute for a wider audience. Rather than saying, can you do it this way? It was, here's what we're trying to get out of this. This is the overall goal. This is where the content will sit. And I don't think there's any way in which we could have over-explained that stuff, because when you're dealing with people who deal with minute details all the time, you can't give them enough of that. So like I say, I think it was a big deal to give them a proper comprehensive briefing document in advance, to give the questions in advance, to give an opportunity to talk about the questions in advance and tell them exactly what the goals of the project were. And I think it happens sometimes where, and I've definitely been guilty of it in the past, where you kind of ask somebody, can you jump into this video for me? And you don't clearly explain the process. So somebody else is instantly on the back foot because they don't know exactly what's going on. And I think we all feel a lot more comfortable when we do. So I think it was just a really positive process, and one in which we maybe avoided some of the common pitfalls by marketing and the research team working really closely together and having a good plan before we did anything.
Yeah, for sure. And that's super important. And I have found that to be a transformational piece of advice is the more you can prep the subject, the better. I used to be of the mindset that like, I want this to come across, this interview, to be very off the cuff and conversational. So I'm not going to share the questions with you because I don't want you to come scripted. And that all changed for me the first podcast that I was on. And I was like, I need to know what we're going to talk about because I can't wing it. And like, I'm actually the type of person that would be more conversational if I was prepared ahead of time. And so I was like, oh, yeah, I'm like, that's what I'm doing to everybody else, is like withholding the information that's going to make this thing better.
I'm the product. It's me.
So yeah, I'm all for that. And I do, once in a while, I will get someone that is kind of scripted and still very nervous. It's pretty rare though. Usually they kind of go, oh, I can't believe I didn't even look at my notes this whole time. But at least they come feeling like they know what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think it definitely helps. Definitely.
Yeah. So let's see. Next up is the video of alum Allison Sweeney. This was the one that I watched initially, and I posted a post on LinkedIn about it because I thought it was really good. So describe this video for our listeners, and then talk about how this came about, what the outcome's been like.
Yeah, so this was the second phase of our postgraduate marketing campaign, which is the Stay Curious. So the whole messaging on this is, stay curious. What might you achieve if you opted for postgraduate studies? So the first phase was about 2.5, coming up on 3 years ago now, and we had 4 graduates that we profiled. And come this year, it was time to refresh that, introduce new faces, new voices. And when we were looking to graduates that we could tell the story of kind of under this umbrella, we had been aware of Alison Sweeney. And so she is a music therapist, and she's the senior music therapist at Temple Street Children's Hospital, a very well-known children's hospital in Dublin. And she just had this wonderful, I think, journey where she switched careers. So she had gone to university, graduated, moved to London, was working as a music teacher. And she had this, she describes this kind of epiphany moment where she was looking at the research around music therapy, her own passion, I suppose, for music, but also that, she wanted to make a difference. She wanted to help people. And she just kind of gave it all up and went back to education, where at a time where there was one part-time music therapy job in the entirety of Ireland. That was it. So wow. No security, no set job prospects, no guarantees whatsoever. And she just had this gut feeling and she went for it. And she just went, I believe in it so much, I can make a success of it. So now she's in a senior role, in this role where she's providing support, she's providing comfort to families through music, which is her passion, at a time which is probably the very worst moment in their lives. This is not like the young people going into that hospital. It's not, they've had a fall. It's not, they're there for serious reasons. And It's just incredibly powerful. And you'll have seen through the engagement on that video, people who encountered Alison and her colleagues in CHI on the very darkest days of their lives look back at that and talk about her being a ray of light in those times. Mm-hmm. And so she just follows her gut. She takes a chance on something. She believes she can make a difference. And she's believed that all the way into being, one of the, I suppose, top people in the country who do this. And I don't think it gets any more stay curious than that, to be honest. I just think she's incredible. And I think the emotive engagement on her story was just so powerful.
Yeah, it was really good. And it was very human, and it kind of roped me in. And the thing I noticed about it was normally you don't see a lot of really high production value videos on TikTok or Reels or stuff like that. Maybe shorts, because, there's a connection between the long form and the short form. And traditional advice says it should look very lo-fi. Otherwise, people are going to reject it. And like, that wasn't the case for me. I was kind of like, got to the end of it, I'm like, I watched that whole thing and that was really good. And it was beautiful. It was beautifully shot too. And it just felt like it fit, on the platform.
Yeah. And it's an interesting one, the kind of toss up, like you say, with the lo-fi, because we do a huge amount of lo-fi stuff, the student content creator program, that's all very filmed on an iPhone and edited, on the spot. And for the big brand campaigns, for us, you want it to look beautiful. But when we're doing that, we're not looking at necessarily what other universities are doing. We're looking at, well, what does beautiful storytelling look like? And can we do that? And can we do it on this budget? But we have some, really incredible, I suppose you mentioned kind of working with outside contractors. We do that obviously for the video stuff as well. That wasn't, filmed on an iPhone. We worked with excellent partners for all of the kind of big brand series. It was a local company for this one as well, Crude Media. They're amazing, but we're really hands-on with it. So we scout locations, we paper script, we do, it's very much still remains our baby kind of end to end. And we work with these trusted providers that we have the experience with, who we know can make it look beautiful. And I think to the point of not seeing a lot of that cinematic content on the likes of, say, Instagram, sometimes I think that works in your favor because it's unexpected, and if it's just beautiful, but it's still an ad, I don't think it works. But I think maybe where it does is where it's beautiful, but also you are still leading with a human. You are still leading with an individual who has this great story. And maybe because it looks a little bit different in the timeline, it stands out a little bit, but it's got enough good in it. The content is there to back up the hopefully thumb-stopping moment.
Yeah, it really becomes more about the down-to-earthness of the content itself. Like, I don't know if you have the word Karens in Ireland, like people that like always want the manager and and stuff like
Karen,
that.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yes.
So like I'll get sucked into like watching these like Karens get arrested videos on TikTok. And I'm like, I would watch that if it was a cop's body cam or if it was like a $30,000 cinema camera. Like, it's just the content.
Absolutely. Oh, she's on an airplane today. What's going to happen?
They're like duct taping her to the seat. Those are my favorite, when some passengers get duct taped to the seat.
Yeah, look, it's all about the story. Yeah, no, I would be 100% with you there. The hours lost to TikTok in late nights, just down the rabbit hole of these cases. Yeah, I'm there.
All right. Well, on that note, you do have a kind of a more lo-fi setup with student-led content creation for your Instagram and TikTok. So tell me about that, because I saw that, I perused through some of the videos, and I was like, this is a really good scalable model. So tell us about that.
Oh, this is so fun. I just love this. So we put out an open call every year for students to make content for the UL channels. We pay them, which I think is sometimes a little bit of a differentiator as well, because I know that there are these kinds of programs everywhere and it's, you're a student ambassador or whatever. But these are young adults and they're putting time and effort and skill into something. And so, as a division, as a Marcoms division, there was agreement across the board that no, if we were going to do this, then part of our budget for the year had to be set aside to pay students to do this. So we have an hourly rate for them. We have regular meetups with them. Another thing I think stands out a little bit is it is a two-way process. So I was at a conference recently and I had a conversation with a few different people who ran programs similar in other institutions, but it was more, they were always giving briefs. It's very much the other way around with us. We give the students kind of free rein to come to us with ideas. They won't all get approved. A lot of them do, because we're kind of, let's take a chance on it, unless it's in any way offensive or could be misconstrued. But if there's maybe, then we'll try it. And I think it's just so nice that you see them just get braver and braver as the year goes on. And if they get a bit of a hit and something does well, they're immediately enthused to come back and kind of pitch something else. People make friends through it, which is really nice too. The main channel focus for us is TikTok, and it's just grown, I think, into this incredibly, overwhelmingly positive space. And it's just this fun peer-to-peer content for the sake of being fun. We treat it completely differently to the other brand channels, because we kind of figure its only job is to be fun. And there's just such freedom to be able to play like that. So we don't put brand ads up. We don't put up recruitment news. We just leave it all off. We don't actively try to sell anything on there. And that's a conscious decision. But in saying that, I have no doubt that we are selling to current kind of secondary cycle students in Ireland that UL is just a really fun place to be. And this is something you might like to be a part of if you choose to come here.
Yeah. It's a great way to learn, and especially in a very low pressure platform. When I was early in my video career, the company I worked for, we would have these interns, and we would send them out to like go interview somewhere, just go do a test project. But like they had to manage the camera and like manage the audio and stuff like that. And like, I remember one time they came back and they were like, shoot, we forgot to hit record on the audio. And like my boss was so excited. He was like, this is why we do this. It's like the perfect chance for them to fail and then never make that mistake again on a real client. But I think this like the evolution of, these short form platforms, it's like the bar is very low. You can try stuff. If it doesn't go anywhere, then it doesn't go anywhere, And
absolutely. Yeah. There's just such freedom in that. And for every kind of video that gets a couple of thousand, then we have one of the guys put up a little piece of audio from it's a British TV show, Gavin and Stacey. And it's just this like really short clip of kind of knocking on the door and step into Christmas. And suddenly like that, there's 100,000 views on it. And it's just feel good, lovely, fun for the sake of being fun. And I think that can be underestimated at times, and the importance of that. And we learn from them. That's the other side of it as well. I mean, none of us are getting any younger. And if you're still in the same role and you're working with students, the gulf every year is getting a bit wider from, when that was me and my team. And I think we get so much back from it every year as well. And you see, when it comes to the content that they choose to create, you also see that when it comes to making the brand campaigns that might, for example, target an undergraduate audience, a bit more about how they talk, how they communicate, the things about the university that they actually choose to highlight when they're given the control to do so, and how that might be so very different from what we think is important to potential students. So it's a really great learning exercise for us as well.
Yeah, I think that's one of the greatest byproducts of having a student-led content creation engine is the data you get from what's interesting to that generation and what's funny to them, what's motivational. And
I've learned that there is no guarantee you will actually understand that,
right?
But you'll find out nonetheless.
Yeah, this word preppy has come back around, and preppy means something completely different than what it meant.
Yeah, it used to be Zach Morris and Tommy Hilfiger. That's what preppy meant.
Yeah, now it's like smiley face. I don't get it. I'm like, I keep trying to define it and wrap my head around this. And I'm like, I talk to my daughter and I'm like, Ellie, is that preppy what you're wearing? And she's like, yeah, this is preppy. I'm like, all right, sweatpants, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, you need that. I mean, that's just how they talk. That's her world is fourth grade, and it's a whole like she'll have her friends over. I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. They're like, this is all this. It's a whole nother language. Yep. Like you can't even pretend to be a millennial and jump in and make a video that references that. Like it has to be them.
Yeah, no, frequently I find myself with the students going back saying, I don't understand this, but I trust you, so go for it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's sometimes that's as much as you can do. Like I will always do the sense check and go, what is this trending sound? And is there any way in which it could be perceived as offensive or anything like that? That, I do have my safety checks. But after that, if I'm like, I don't understand why this is funny, you do. And that's really all that matters. And, and then suddenly, like that, there's a couple of 100,000 views. I'm like, still don't get it, but I'm going to laugh along like I do.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So lastly, actually, before we move on, I wanted to say, what's the handle for the TikTok? Is it just the main?
Yeah, it is. It's the main brand one. It's just University of Limerick.
Okay, cool. All right. So people listening, go check that out. See what those students are doing. Lastly, we're coming up on Christmas here. So this is a good timing for this. We're recording this episode in sort of mid to late November. But you guys did a Christmas video and it was very like storyboarded, like highly produced, and apparently did very well. So describe that video for us and tell us what that was like.
Yes, it's quite sweet. So there's a bit of a history of the comms team within UL doing a Christmas video over the last few years. And last year, so for 2023, we had a little bit of a project team assembled from the various divisions within our division. So we had a kind of a wider group that whittled down to kind of a 4-person project team on it. And we had this concept of 2 young girls writing their letters to Santa Claus, and you see what they're writing, and then they come to the UL campus to post the letters. It's a post box on campus. It's a nice walk. Why not? So they are coming around and peeking into various classrooms, labs, seeing what's happening, and then you see them kind of imagine themselves in place. So one is looking at a dancer, and then she imagines herself being part of that dance in the Irish World Academy that I mentioned earlier. We have a flight simulator, so one of the girls peeks around the corner, sees that, and then imagines herself, as a pilot. And there's a couple of setups like that. And the whole kind of messaging around it, like really soft in terms of a sell. It was basically, whatever you want to be when you grow up, we're here to help you get there. So it was just, education will help you get to wherever it is you're kind of picturing. And you would think that there was a lot more involved in the lead up and a lot more planning than there actually was. We pulled in favors from absolutely everywhere. The 2 girls they're phenomenal. They're local to the area, part of a stage school. They were delighted to be the actors for the couple of days. It was one of their real life mums was the mum in the video. Our student social media officers that we just spoke about were all of the extras, and everyone else you see in that video is genuinely UL staff. We had 2 days of filming to get the whole lot done in, I don't know how many different locations across campus. It was all done on campus. And the planning for that happened in the 1-week period beforehand. So it was, when I say we pulled in favors from everyone. And we got it turned around, and it was another local videographer, recent graduate of UL as well, which was lovely because he was back on campus working on it, and he did a wonderful job. It got a huge reaction beyond UL. But I think the thing that was most notable to our Marcom team was the internal response to it. And I think, look, in any workplace, you can have cynicism, you can have, that just comes as part of the territory. People absolutely loved it. The comments were so positive. It was just magical that people were so proud of UL. And I think part of that was just, again, because there was no hard sell. It was just, we can all so easily put ourselves back in that place where you're 5 or 7 or 9 and when I grow up I want to be, like, we can all relate to that. And just this idea that at that point in time you genuinely believe you can be anything you want to be. And I think in terms of the response from UL staff, for us it was a bit of a love letter to the team, the huge UL team as well, because we'll all have tough days at work, but if you're here it means you're helping people to achieve those goals. So whatever your role is here, you're part of making that happen, which is really nice and maybe a nice thing to end the year and to reflect on and take away from.
Yeah, very cool. Was it just one videographer or did you guys have a crew?
Just the one.
Just the one? It was a pretty high-end look for like... It was a really
small production. It was a tight set.
Yeah. I mean, for one person, I thought you did a good job on...
Yeah. Oh, he did a phenomenal job. That was, like I say, Ollie Phillips, recent graduate, and he was wonderful and excellent to work with. And also, as it happened, the 2 little girls had a major crush on him, which was really cute to watch as we walked around. Very sweet.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, my last question is just about measuring success. And so, we talk about success a few different ways in this episode so far. I mean, in the Christmas video, like the success kind of was more like the internal morale. And other times it's maybe a high view count or a high amount of comments or whatever else. But typically, like, what kind of metrics matter to UL?
Yeah, I mean, again, I suppose I'm talking specifically to the unit that I'm in, which again is kind of the central marketing unit. So where we're positioned in, whether you call it a funnel or cycle or, wherever it is, we are at that brand awareness stage. So for us, it typically is reach. That's kind of the number one thing, is to get as many eyeballs as possible on the content that we're creating. So that's usually the kind of core metric, I suppose. So when you're looking at that, you are looking at your reach, you're looking at your view rate, you're looking at how many completed views, all that kind of stuff is important when it comes to us to consider how something has performed. But but for me personally, it's engagement. And in particular, any kind of comments that come back. I think, I really spend a lot of time looking at what do people say in response to what's being put out there, because if the amount of content we all scroll past every single day. If somebody has bothered to stop and have something to say, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, if they've given it that much of their time and energy, I place a huge value on that. So I think we look a lot at what have people had to say about the content, and in what ways might that change, shape, reframe what we do next.
Yeah, the answer might very well be no, because I think this is kind of difficult to do. But has there been any effort or any success in connecting video content marketing results to like enrollment results?
As it stands, not really. And again, I think this is part of that decentralized evolved model without that change management that I mentioned earlier on. So we do have a team of marketers across the university in various pockets who have chosen to, Avengers assemble it all and come together in this kind of, like structured by ourselves way to try and point from one part of the funnel to the next. But say, for example, what will happen with Stay Curious is that we will have these videos, these long form and the hero one. We will then give the assets to the postgraduate marketing specific unit, and they will use sections of that video as well with more kind of call to action framing. So they will use a clip of Alison or Joseph, and there will be a prompt within their version of the ad to download the prospectus. So there is threads that we can follow, but it doesn't come usually directly from the central hero video or the persona videos, but sort of in a roundabout way later on down the funnel that comes back in.
Yeah, it's tough because, people don't just, it's not like people like watch a top of funnel video, then they're like, all right, I'm going to go watch a mid funnel video. Then, all right, I'm going to watch a bottom of funnel. Okay, now I'm going to apply. Like, it just is never like that. I
watched 3 videos and now I'm going to pay for my master's. Woohoo.
Right. I'm always amazed at like just clients that I work with, they've hovered around my content for sometimes years before. And so like to quantify what post of mine or what podcast episode really did it for them would be difficult. It's just a slow build. And I think that that's probably very much the case, if you're marketing to high school students, kind of trying to follow them through that whole cycle. There's an unlimited amount of pieces of content.
The variables.
I guess the only way to find that out would be like to ask in the application or something. That's usually beyond the scope of my knowledge of the enrollment process, but it's a tough code to crack, how you would do that.
It is. And it's one of those things I think you mentioned earlier on about when you get asked about return on investment. It's, you can be by people who, again, it may not be their regular wheelhouse. So you can be put on the spot by it. Yeah, but, how many bums on seats did we get for the money we spent on those videos? And again, I think this whole education for people who aren't in that space is really important, and kind of acknowledging that everybody is an expert somewhere. And exactly to your point, I might look at 20 of a vendor's different videos. I might look at 50. I might look at one this year, love it. You won't know that I don't have the budget for it this year, and I'll come back next year based on that video unless we have that explicit conversation. So it really is, there's so many variables in that decision-making process. We do try and collect feedback on the campaign. So we will try and do that. That happens through surveys. There's awareness. There's a bit of work happening on how we make that a project for next year. But it's a tough nut to crack. And I think, again, setting out your stall at the start to say, this isn't going to say we made this video for this much money and it led to this many people. That the job here is a little bit different, and explaining what it is you are doing and kind of managing those expectations early on, I think can kind of save you maybe from some of the more difficult to answer questions at the end, just because you don't have all of that information. And you can't. Nobody knows the thought processes. Nobody can see the full line or how many things happened in the meantime. Or maybe you just opted for the other university because your friend went there and you wanted to live together. There's just so much that is variable from student to student. And I think you try and cast as wide a net as possible with the best content possible. Hope for the best.
Yeah. And I think it comes down to like, no one would argue that communicating about the value of your institution is helpful. Whether you have a college rep going to a high school to communicate that value, whether it's an article or a landing page that's full of text that's communicating the value, or whether it's video, it's just about like, how do you remix that content or create platform specific content? It's just another act of going to where your audience is, so it's like, it's like either you do that or you don't. Either you're going to say that there's value in talking about our school, and so we're going to invest in this way of talking about it, through video, and we know that the world is just very video centric, or we're going to ignore that data and then we're going to just create like giant blocks of text on our website and very confusing websites that are hard to navigate. And so, well, cool. This has been awesome. So where can people connect with you at?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. So Michelle McMahon, I really appreciated your attempt at the very Irish pronunciation of that earlier on. I'm happy to connect there. I'm still on X for the moment. We'll see how that one works out. The University of Limerick marketing team would be delighted to meet some new people in the industry to connect with. So absolutely reach out.
Awesome. Well, go connect with Michelle on LinkedIn and X for the next little bit here. Before she moves to Blue Sky. Blue Sky is the new hotness, I guess. But yeah, Michelle, thanks for coming on the show. It was a great conversation. Looking forward to this episode coming out.
Thank you so much, Sean.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. 3 things I want to invite you to before you go. Number 1, if you want to know what's working right now in higher ed video, like what videos are getting tons of views, likes, comments, all that, you can get ungated access to our report, aptly named What's Working in Higher Ed Video, a comprehensive guide for higher ed Marcom leaders and content creators. So check it out at unveiled.tv/higheredvideo, and you might want to bookmark it because it's designed to be a resource for you that you can keep referring back to for inspiration. Number 2, reminder to sign up for my free newsletter all about content creation and strategy at unveiled.tv/newsletter. And number 3, follow me on LinkedIn. If you're searching for me, my name is John Azzoni. It's spelled JohnAzoni. I'm on there all day, every day, for better or for worse, posting regular content and engaging with folks like you. So I'd love to connect with you on there. And with that, we'll catch you on the next episode of the Higher Ed Storytelling University podcast. And as always, I am cheering you on. Okay, bye.